Read A Good Girl's Guide to Murder by Holly Jackson. So we're going to be reading the first two chapters, and let's start. Part 1. Okay, let's start with chapter 1. Pip knew where they lived. Everyone in Fairview knew where they lived. Their home was like the town's own haunted house. People's footsteps quickened as they walked by, and the words strangled and died in their throats. Shrieking children would gather on their walk home from school, daring one another to run up and touch the front gate. But it wasn't haunted by ghosts, just three sad people trying to live their lives as before. A house not haunted by flickering lights or spectral falling stairs, but the dark spray painted letters of Scum Family and stone shattered windows. Pip had always wondered why they didn't move. Not that they had to. They hadn't done anything wrong. But she didn't know how they lived like that. How the Saints found the strength to stay here. Here in Fairview, under the weight of so many widened eyes, of the comment whispering just loud enough to hear, of neighborly small talk never stretching into real talk anymore. It was a particular cruelty that their house was so close to Fairview High School, where both Andy Vels and Sal Singh had gone, where Pip would return to her senior year in a few weeks, where the late summer sun dipped into September. Pip stopped and rested her hand on the front gate, instantly braver than half the town's kid. Her eyes traced to the path to the front door. It was possible that this was a very bad idea. She had considered that. Pausing just for a second, Pip held her breath, then pushed the creaking gate and crossed the yard. She stopped at the front door and knocked 3 times. Her reflection stared back at her. The long, dark-haired son bleached at a lighter brown at the tips, a pale white skin despite a week just spent in the Caribbean, the sharp, muddy green eyes braced for impact. This was a description of the character Pip. The door opened with the clatter of the falling chain and clicking locks. "Hello?" he said, holding the door half open, with his hands folded over the side. Pip blinked to break her stare, but she couldn't help it. He looked so much like Sal, the Sal she knew from all those television reports and newspaper pictures, the Sal now fading from her memory. Ravi had his brother's messy black side-swept hair, thick arched eyebrows, and oaken-hued skin. "Hello?" he said again. Pip faltered. He'd grown even taller since the last she saw him. She's never been this close before, but now that she saw he had a dimple in his chin, just like hers. Sorry, hi." She did an awkward half wave and she immediately regretted. "Hi?" "Hi, Ravi," she said. I, you don't know me. I'm Pipa Fitzamobi, just a few years below you at school before you left." "Okay." "I was wondering if I could borrow a second of your time." "Well, not only a second. We're already way past that. Maybe like a few sequential seconds, if you can spare them." Oh God, this was what happened when she was nervous. Words swept out, unchecked, and over-explained until someone stopped her. Ravi looked confused. "Sorry," Pip said, recovering. "I mean, I'm doing my senior capstone project at school and..." "What's a capstone project?" "It's kind of a senior thesis you work on independently along normal classes. You can pick any topic you want, and I was wondering if you were willing to be interviewed for mine." "What is it about?" His dark eyebrows shrugged closer to his eyes. It's about what happened 5 years ago." Ravi exhaled loudly, his lip curling with what looked like Anger. Why? He said. Because I don't think your brother did it, and I'm gonna try and prove it. Okay, it's getting interesting. Now, we're gonna be reading a little bit about Pipa Fitzamobi, her project log, and this is entry number 1, so we're gonna read it. Our capstone project logs are supposed to be for recording any obstacles we face in our research, our progress, and our aims for our final reports. Mine will have to be a little different. I'm going to record all my research here, both relevant and irrelevant, because I don't really know what my final report will be yet, or what will end up being important. I will have to wait and see where I am after all my investigating and what essay I can bring together. I'm hoping I will not be the topic I proposed to Mrs. Morgan. I'm hoping it will be the truth. What really happened to Andy Bell on April 18th, 2014? And if as my instincts tell me, Sal Singh is not guilty, then who killed her? I don't think I'll actually solve the case and figure out who murdered Andy. I'm not deluded, but I'm hoping my findings might lead to a reasonable reasonable doubt about Sal's guilt, and suggest that the police were mistaken in closing the case without digging further. The first stage in this project is to research what happened to Andrea Bell, known to everyone as Andy, and the circumstances surrounding her disappearance, from the first national online news outlet to the report on the event. Andrea Bell, 17, was reported missing from her home in Fairview, Connecticut last Friday. She left home in her car, a white Honda Civic, with her cell phone, but did not take any clothes with her. Police say her disappearance is completely out of character. Police began searching the woodland near the family's home this past weekend. Andrea, known as Andy, is described as a white 5 feet 6 inches tall with long blonde hair and blue eyes. It is though that she is wearing a dark jeans and a blue cropped sweater on the night she went missing. Other sources had more details as to when Andy was last seen alive, and the time frame in which she is believed to have been abducted. Andy Bell was last seen alive by her younger sister Becca around 10:30 p.m. on April 18, 2014. This was corroborated by the police in a press conference on Tuesday, April 22nd. Footage was taken from a security camera outside the Bank of Fairview's Main Street confirms that Andy's car was seen driving away from her home around 10:40 p.m. According to her parents, Jason and Dawn Bell, Andy was supposed to pick them, or in parentheses them, up from a dinner party at 12:45 a.m. When Andy didn't show up or answer any of their phone calls, they started reaching out to her friends to see if anybody knew about her whereabouts. Jason Bell called the police to report his daughter missing at 3 a.m. Saturday morning. So what happened to Andy Bell that night between 10:40 and 12:45 a.m.? Here seems like a good place to type up the transcript from my interview with Angela Johnson. And then there's the transcript with Angela Johnson. Angela. Hello. And then Pip says, "Hi, this is Angela Johnson." Angela says, "Speaking. Yep. Is this Pipa?" "Yes. Thank you so much for replying to my email. Do you mind if I record this interview for my project?" "Yeah, that's fine." "I'm sorry you have to. I've got about 10 minutes. So what do you want to talk about?" "Oh, what do you want to know about the missing persons?" "Well, I was wondering if you could talk me through what happens when someone is reported missing. What's the process and the first steps taken by the police?" "When someone is reported missing, the police will try and get as much detail as possible so they can identify the potential risk of the missing person, and an appropriate police response can be made. They'll ask for a name, age, description, the clothes they were last seen wearing, the circumstances of their disappearance. If going missing is out of character for this person, details of any vehicle is involved. Using this information, the police will determine whether this is an at-risk missing persons case. And what circumstances would that make an at-risk case? If they're vulnerable because of their age or a disability, or their behavior is out of character, which indicates they could have been exposed to harm. So if the missing person is 17 years old and is deemed out of character for her to go missing. Would that be considered an at-risk case? Absolutely, when a minor is involved. Sorry. So how would the police respond? Well, there would be an immediate deployment of police officers to the location the person is missing from. The police will get further information about the missing person, such as details of their friends or partners, any health conditions, financial information in case they were trying to withdraw money. Police will also need recent photographs and might take DNA samples in case they need it in subsequent forensic examination. And with the consent of the homeowners, the location would be searched thoroughly to see if the missing person is concealed or hiding there, and to establish whether there are any further evidential leads. So immediately the police are looking for any clues or suggestions that the missing person had been victim of a crime? Absolutely. If the circumstances of the disappearance are suspicious, officers are instructed to document evidence early on as though they were investigating a murder. Of course, only a very small percentage of missing persons cases turn into homicide cases. And what happens if nothing significant turns up after the initial home search? They expand the search to the immediate area. They question friends, neighbors, anyone who might have relevant information. If it's a teenager who's missing, we can't assume the reporting parents know all the child's friends and acquaintances. Peers are good points to contact to establish other important leads. Any secret boyfriends, that sort of thing. A price strategy is usually discussed because appeals for information in the media and can be very useful in these situations. So, if it's a 17-year-old girl who's gone missing, the police would contact her friends and boyfriend early on? Yes, of course. Inquiries will be made because if the missing person has run away, they are likely to be hiding out with someone close to them. And at what point is a missing person's case do police assume they are looking for a body? Well, time-wise, it's not. Oh, Pippa, I have to go. Sorry, I've been called into my meeting. Oh, okay. Thank you so much for taking your time to talk to me. And if you have more questions, just shoot me an email and I'll get it to when I can. Will do. Thanks again. And then she wrote, I found these statistics. 80% of missing people are found in the first 24 hours. 97% are found in the first week. 99% of cases are resolved within the first year. That just leaves 1%. 1% of people who disappear are never found. And just like that, 0.25% of all missing persons cases have a fatal outcome. So where does this leave Andy Bell? Floating incessantly somewhere between 1% and 0.25%. Even though Andy has never been found and her body never recovered, most people accept that she's dead. And why is that? Salsing is why.